Stop being the nice guy. Boundaries, self-respect, and directness for men. Stop people-pleasing, say what you mean, and become the man others actually respect. By Marlow Hayes. Introduction. The plane bounced through the clouds, but the man inside the cabin didn't feel the bumps. He only felt the heavy weight of hope. His stomach was in knots, and his heart beat a little too fast. He truly believed he was the only person who could save the world from a terrible fire. He wasn't a soldier or a king who liked to fight. He was a man who believed in being reasonable. He believed that if you were kind enough, if you listened long enough, and if you gave people what they wanted, they would eventually be nice back to you. It was September 1938. Neville Chamberlain, the leader of Great Britain, was flying home from a meeting with a very dangerous man. That man was Adolf Hitler. Most people in the world were scared that another big war was coming. Chamberlain wanted to stop it. He didn't want to use guns or threats. He wanted to use niceness. When Chamberlain stepped off the plane, he held up a piece of paper. He had a big smile on his face. He told the crowds of people that he had made a deal. He had given Hitler a piece of land he wanted, and in return, Hitler promised to be peaceful. Chamberlain called it peace for our time. He thought he was being a hero. He thought his kindness had fixed the problem. He was wrong. Hitler didn't see Chamberlain as a hero. He saw him as a pushover. He saw a man who was too afraid to say no or set a firm line in the sand. Because Chamberlain wouldn't stand up for himself or his country, Hitler felt he could do whatever he wanted. Less than a year later, the biggest and bloodiest war in history began. Chamberlain had tried to buy peace with niceness, but all he bought was a disaster. A man named Winston Churchill watched this happen from the sidelines. He knew exactly what went wrong. He told Chamberlain that he had a choice between a hard fight and losing his honor. Chamberlain chose to avoid the fight, but he ended up losing his honor and having to fight anyway. This story isn't just about history or wars between countries. It is a story about the trap many men fall into every single day. You might not be trying to stop a world war, but you might be trying to keep the peace in your own life. You might think that if you just work harder, complain less, and keep everyone happy, your life will finally be great. You believe that if you are the nice guy, people will respect you, your partner will love you more, and your boss will give you a raise. But deep down, you know it isn't working. The secret deal you never signed. You likely feel a quiet, heavy frustration sitting in the back of your mind. It shows up when you agree to stay late at work for the third time this week, even though you really wanted to go to the gym. It shows up when you do all the chores at home, hoping your wife will notice and be affectionate, only for her to fall asleep on the couch without saying a word. You are living by a hidden rule. It is a deal you made with the world, but the world never signed it. This deal says, if I am good and I take care of everyone else's needs, then the world should be good to me and take care of my needs. This is called the invisible contract. When you follow this contract, you spend your whole day checking the weather of other people's moods. You look at your boss to see if he is happy. You look at your wife to see if she is annoyed. You look at your friends to see if they think you are cool. You are like a person trying to navigate a ship by looking at the waves instead of looking at a compass. Because you are so busy trying to please everyone else, you have lost track of what you actually want. You have become a chameleon. You change your colors to fit in with whoever is standing next to you. You tell people what they want to hear because you are terrified of them being mad at you. You think this makes you a good person. The truth is much harder to hear. This behavior isn't actually about being a good person. It is about fear. It is a way to stay safe and avoid the scary parts of life, like people being upset with you or having a hard conversation. It is a strategy of manipulation. You are being nice so that you can get something in return. When you don't get that something, the respect, the love, or the money, you don't get loud. You don't get angry. Instead, you get resentful. You feel a bitter, cold feeling growing inside you. You think, after everything I've done for them, how could they treat me like this? You are tired of being a doormat. You are tired of feeling like a roommate in your own marriage. You are tired of being the guy everyone likes but nobody truly respects. The 3 lies of the nice guy. To move forward, we have to look at the 3 big lies that keep men stuck in this cycle. The first lie is, I am a very generous person. You tell yourself that you do things for others because you have a big heart. But if you are honest, you do those things because you want people to like you. You are buying their approval. If you were truly generous, you wouldn't feel so angry when they don't say thank you or give you what you want. The second lie is, I am a victim. You feel like people are taking advantage of you. You feel like your boss is mean or your wife is cold, but you are the one who is saying yes when you want to say no. You are the one who is staying silent when you should speak up. You are not a victim of other people. You are a victim of your own refusal to set a boundary. The third lie is, I am different from other men. Many nice guys look at men who are direct and assertive and think, I'm not like those jerks. I'm sensitive. I'm kind. You use your niceness as a way to feel better than other men. But being a jerk and being a nice guy are just two sides of the same coin. Both are ways of acting that come from not knowing who you really are. This book is about finding a third way. It is about becoming what we call the integrated man. An integrated man isn't a jerk. He is kind, but he has a backbone. He is loving, but he doesn't let people walk over him. He doesn't need to hide who he is or what he wants. He says what he means, and he means what he says. He doesn't follow an invisible contract. He follows an iron compass, an internal set of values that tells him which way to go, no matter how the people around him are acting. By the end of this journey, you won't just be nicer, you will be stronger. You will be able to handle a fight without shaking or feeling sick. You will be able to tell your partner what you need without apologizing for it. You will regain your time and your energy because you will stop giving it away to people who don't deserve it. You will finally be the man that others actually respect. Meet Mark. To see how this works in the real world, we need to look at a man named Mark Henderson. Mark is 34 years old. He lives in Seattle and works as a project manager for an architecture firm. If you met Mark at a party, you would think he was a great guy. He smiles a lot, he listens well, he is always the one who offers to help move a couch or pick up someone from the airport. But if you could see inside Mark's head at 9:30 on a Tuesday night, you would see a different story. Mark is standing in his kitchen staring at a pile of dirty dishes. His wife, Sarah, is in the living room watching a show. They haven't really talked all day. They haven't been intimate in months. Mark feels a hollow pit in his stomach. He is exhausted. He spent 10 hours at the office doing his own work, plus half of a coworker's work because he didn't want to say no when his boss asked for a quick favor. On the way home, he picked up Sarah's dry cleaning. He didn't have to. He just thought it would make her happy. But when he walked in the door, she barely looked up from her phone. She just said, thanks, and went back to her show. Now as he scrubs a plate, Mark feels a wave of heat wash over him. He is furious. He wants to yell. He wants to ask why he is the only one doing anything. He wants to tell her he is lonely and unhappy. But he doesn't say anything. He just scrubs the plate harder. Mark is terrified that if he speaks up, Sarah will get mad. He is afraid she will think he is being mean. He is afraid that if he stops being the perfect husband, everything will fall apart, so he stays silent. He keeps the peace. He does the dishes. And every time he stays silent, a little piece of his self-respect dies. He feels less like a man and more like a servant. He is waiting for Sarah to notice how hard he is working and reward him with love. But Sarah doesn't see a hero. She sees a man who seems bored and grumpy, and she doesn't know why. They are drifting apart, and Mark's niceness is the very thing pulling them away from each other. Mark is stuck. He thinks he is doing everything right, but his life feels completely wrong. He is the person this book was written for. Over the next few chapters, we're going to follow Mark as he learns how to tear up his invisible contract and build a life based on truth instead of pleasing. Our guides on the path. You aren't going on this journey alone. To help us understand how to move from being a nice guy to an integrated man, we are going to look at the lives of 3 men who mastered the art of self-respect. First, we will listen to Marcus Aurelius. He was the emperor of Rome nearly 2,000 years ago. He was the most powerful man on the planet, but he struggled with the same things you do. He was surrounded by people who flattered him and wanted things from him. He had to learn how to stay true to himself while everyone around him was wearing a mask. He will teach us how to stop caring about the clapping of hands and start caring about our own character. Second, we will learn from Frederick Douglass. He was born as a slave in America. He spent the first part of his life being forced to please masters just to stay alive. He will show us the moment he decided that he would rather die than be beaten again. His story is about the incredible power of a single act of defiance. He will teach us that you cannot be free until you decide that you belong to yourself, not to the people around you. Third, we will follow Sir Ernest Shackleton. He was an explorer who led his men into the coldest, most dangerous place on Earth, Antarctica. When things went wrong and his ship was crushed by ice, he didn't try to be nice to keep everyone happy. He made hard, unpopular choices to keep them alive. He will teach us how to be a leader who sets firm boundaries while still earning the deep loyalty and love of those around us. The road ahead. This book is divided into parts that will help you rebuild yourself from the inside out. We will start by looking at why you became a nice guy in the first place. Most of the time, this behavior starts when we are very young. We learn that being good is the only way to be safe or loved. We have to understand our past before we can change our future. Then, we will get into the how-to of changing. We will talk about the power of the word no. We will learn how to be radically honest, which means stopping the little white lies and the hiding that you do every day. We will explore what it means to have an ego death, the moment you stop caring if people think you are a nice guy and start caring if you are a real man. We will also look at your relationships. We will see why your niceness might actually be the reason your marriage or dating life feels stuck. We will learn how to bring the spark back by being more direct and setting boundaries in the bedroom and the living room. Finally, we will look at how to keep this going for the rest of your life. Being an integrated man isn't a destination you reach and then stop. It's a way of walking through the world. It's a long walk towards self-respect. You might feel nervous right now. You might be worried that if you follow this book, you will lose friends or make people angry. The truth is, you might. Some people only like you because they can use you. When you stop being usable, they might leave. But you will also gain something much better. You will gain a sense of peace you haven't felt in years. You will look in the mirror and like the man looking back at you. You will finally be able to take a deep breath and know that you are living your life for yourself, not for the approval of others. The nice guy has to die so the real man can live. It's time to stop waiting for permission to be yourself. It's time to stop trying to please the world and start trying to respect yourself. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Nice Guy Paradox. Why kindness without backbone fails. The woodshop smelled like cedar and old coffee. Elias, a man with hands as rough as tree bark, didn't talk much while he worked. He was 70 years old and had spent 50 of those years carving things out of oak and walnut. One afternoon, I was trying to glue two pieces of wood together, but they kept sliding apart. I was being too gentle, afraid I might mar the surface or squeeze out too much glue. I was trying to be nice to the wood. Elias stopped his lathe and walked over. He didn't say a word. He grabbed a heavy iron clamp, tightened it until the wood groaned, and wiped away the extra glue with a dirty rag. He looked at me and said that if you're afraid to put pressure on something, you'll never build anything that lasts. He told me that a joint without pressure is just a suggestion, not a bond. That was the first time I realized that being gentle isn't the same thing as being good. If you don't have the strength to hold things together, everything you build will eventually fall apart. Most men spend their lives trying to be the nice piece of wood. They want to be smooth, easy to work with, and liked by everyone. They think that if they never cause trouble and always say the right thing, the world will reward them. But Elias taught me that the softest wood is the first to rot. It's the heartwood, the tough, dense center of the tree that holds up the house. This chapter is about finding that heartwood. It's about the strange truth that being a nice guy actually makes life harder for you and everyone around you. The emperor on the edge of the world. In the year 161 AD, a man named Marcus Aurelius became the leader of the Roman Empire. At that time, Rome was the most powerful thing on earth. Marcus didn't just have a job, he had absolute power. If he wanted someone gone, they were gone. If he wanted a palace built of gold, it was built. But Marcus wasn't interested in being a king who sat on a throne and ate grapes. He spent most of his time in a tent on the freezing edges of the empire, fighting wars he didn't want to fight. One night, near the Danube River, the wind was howling outside his tent. Marcus was tired. He was surrounded by people who constantly told him how great he was. They smiled at him, they bowed to him, and they agreed with everything he said. They were being nice, but Marcus knew better. He knew that most of these people didn't actually care about him. They were fawning. using their niceness as a tool to get what they wanted. Marcus sat down and wrote to himself in a diary that we now call the Meditations. He wrote about how to stay a good man when everyone around you is trying to use you. He realized that if he tried to make everyone like him, he would be a slave to their opinions. He saw that many of his generals and advisors were like chameleons. They changed their colors based on what they thought he wanted to hear. The struggle Marcus faced is the same one many men face today. He wanted to be a good man, which to him meant being just, fair, and kind. But he was the leader of an empire. He had to make hard choices. He had to punish people who broke the law. He had to send men into battle. If he had been a nice guy in the way we use the term today, the empire would have crumbled in a week. He would have been too afraid to hurt anyone's feelings or make an unpopular choice. Marcus learned a lesson that changed how he ruled. He realized that being just was more important than being liked. When a close friend and general named Avidius Cassius betrayed him and tried to take the throne, the nice thing to do might have been to ignore it or to be so hurt that he reacted with blind rage. Instead, Marcus stayed firm. He prepared for war, but he told his soldiers that he hoped to capture Cassius alive so he could show him mercy. He didn't want revenge, but he also didn't let the betrayal slide. He had a backbone made of iron wrapped in a coat of kindness. He understood that people who are nice because they are afraid of conflict are not actually being good. They are just being quiet. Marcus chose to be a man of character. He stopped looking at the clapping of hands, the praise of the crowd, and started looking at his own internal compass. He told himself that the opinion of others is like the clapping of tongues. It makes a lot of noise, but it has no real substance. The trap of the fawn. We often think of humans having two main reactions to stress: fight or flight. If a bear walks into the room, you either try to punch it or you run away. But there is a third reaction that nice guys use almost every day. It's called the fawn response. When we feel threatened, even if it's just the threat of someone being mad at us, our brain tells us to become as helpful and sweet as possible to stay safe. Imagine a small dog meeting a much larger, meaner dog. The small dog might roll over on its back and show its belly. It's saying, "Look, I'm not a threat. Please don't hurt me." That is fawning. Many men do this in their offices, their friendships, and even their marriages. They roll over. They agree with things they hate. They say yes when they want to say no. They do this because their brain has decided that conflict is a bear, and the only way to survive is to be the nicest person in the room. The problem is that this isn't real kindness. Real kindness is a choice. If you are a strong man who could be mean but chooses to be gentle, that is a virtue. But if you are a nice guy who is gentle because you are too afraid to be anything else, that isn't a virtue. It's a lack of options. It's a survival mask. A study done at the University of Notre Dame looked at agreeable men, the ones who always go along to get along. The researchers found that these men earn significantly less money over their lives than men who are willing to be disagreeable when necessary. It's not because being a jerk makes you rich. It's because being too nice makes you invisible. People don't respect the man who always says yes because they know his yes doesn't cost him anything. It's just his default setting. This creates a paradox. The nice guy acts this way because he wants to be liked and respected. He thinks that by being the most helpful, least annoying person on earth, people will eventually notice and reward him. But the exact opposite happens. Because he has no boundaries and no backbone, people stop seeing him as a person and start seeing him as a tool. He becomes the office janitor, the friend zone shoulder to cry on, and the husband who gets ignored. The approval trap. Most nice guys are actually addicts. They aren't addicted to drugs or alcohol, but to something just as powerful: validation. They need a hit of approval to feel okay about themselves. When someone says, "Thank you," or "You're such a great guy," it's like a shot of dopamine to their brain. This addiction turns life into a performance. Instead of living by an iron compass, an internal set of values that tells you what is right, the nice guy lives by external radar. He is constantly scanning the faces of the people around him. Is my boss happy? Is my wife annoyed? Does that guy think I'm cool? If the radar picks up any sign of trouble, he immediately changes his behavior to fix it. The danger of this approval trap is that you lose yourself. You become a chameleon. You have one personality for your friends, another for your boss, and another for your partner. After a while, you don't even know who you are when you're alone. You spent so much time trying to be what everyone else wants that the real you has disappeared. There was a study about bosses that shows why this backfires. Researchers found that employees were actually more stressed out by a bipolar boss, someone who was incredibly nice one day and tough the next than they were, by a boss who was consistently a bit of a jerk. Why? Because you can't trust a person who is always trying to be nice. You never know where you stand with them. You're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. When you operate from the approval trap, you are actually being dishonest. You are hiding your true thoughts and feelings because you're afraid of the reaction they might cause. This makes you untrustworthy. People might like your niceness, but they won't trust your character. They know that if things get hard, you'll probably just say whatever you think will keep you out of trouble. Kind versus nice, the great divide. To stop being a nice guy, you have to understand the difference between being nice and being kind. They sound like the same thing, but they are worlds apart. Nice is about how you want to be seen. It is external. It is about avoiding conflict and keeping the peace. It is often rooted in fear. Kind is about who you are. It is internal. It is about doing the right thing, even if it makes people angry. It is rooted in strength. A nice person will see a friend doing something self-destructive and say nothing because they don't want to make things awkward. A kind person will tell their friend the truth, even if it causes a fight, because they actually care about their friend's future. The nice move protects the nice guy's comfort. The kind move protects the friend. Think back to Marcus Aurelius. He was a kind man. He spent his life trying to help the people of Rome, but he was not a nice man. He didn't let people walk over him. He didn't stay quiet when a boundary was crossed. He had an internal iron compass that told him what was right, and he followed it, regardless of whether it made him popular. When you switch from being nice to being kind, your life changes. You stop asking, "What does this person want me to say?" And you start asking, "What is the truth here?" You start setting boundaries. You realize that no is a complete sentence. You stop apologizing for having an opinion. This shift is terrifying at first. When you've spent your whole life being a people pleaser, setting a boundary feels like committing a crime. Your heart will race. Your palms will sweat. Your brain will scream at you to just be nice and make the problem go away. But if you push through that fear, you find something incredible on the other side. Self-respect. The office janitor, Mark Henderson, sat at his desk in the open plan office of his Seattle architecture firm. It was 4:45 p.m. on a Friday. He could already taste the weekend. He had plans to take his wife Sarah to a new Italian place they'd been talking about for weeks. He was even going to leave 15 minutes early to beat the traffic. Then he heard the footsteps. He didn't even have to look up to know it was Derek, his boss. Derek always walked with a heavy, purposeful stomp when he wanted something. Mark felt his external radar kick in. His stomach tightened. His brain started scanning for ways to make Derek happy before Derek even spoke. "Hey, Mark," Derek said, leaning over the partition. "I'm in a real bind. The junior team completely messed up the renders for the Mill Creek project. If we don't get these fixed by Monday morning, the client is going to walk. You're the only one I can trust to get this right." Mark's heart sank. He knew what this meant. He'd be staying until 9 p.m. tonight and probably coming in on Saturday too. He thought about the Italian restaurant. He thought about Sarah waiting at home. He felt a flash of anger. Why was he always the one fixing other people's mistakes? But then the nice guy took over. The part of him that wanted to be the hero and the reliable one spoke up. He didn't want Derek to think he wasn't a team player. He didn't want to deal with the awkwardness of saying no. "Sure, no problem, Derek," Mark said, forcing a smile. "I'll get right on it. Don't worry, we won't lose the client." "You're a lifesaver, Mark," Derek said, already walking away. "I knew I could count on you." As Derek disappeared into his office, the fake smile slid off Mark's face. He felt hollow. He felt like a janitor who was constantly cleaning up everyone else's trash while they went home to their families. He picked up his phone to text Sarah. "Hey, honey, stuck at the office again. So sorry about dinner. I'll make it up to you." He knew what her reply would be. She'd say it's okay, but she'd be distant for the rest of the night. He was doing everything for everyone else, his boss, his coworkers, his wife, and yet he felt further away from them than ever. He was the nicest guy in the office, and all it had gotten him was a desk full of work that wasn't his. The iron compass. The reason Mark said yes wasn't because he was a good person. It was because he didn't have a compass. He was navigating by Derek's mood. If Derek was happy, Mark felt safe. If Derek was stressed, Mark felt he had to fix it. This is the nice guy paradox. By trying to make everyone else's life easy, Mark was making his own life miserable. To break this cycle, you have to build your own iron compass. This is a set of internal values that you refuse to break. It's the realization that your time, your energy, and your needs are just as important as everyone else's. When you have an iron compass, you don't look for the nice answer. You look for the right answer. If Derek asks you to stay late, your compass might say, "My commitment to my wife is my top priority today." Then, instead of saying, "Sure, no problem," you say, "I can't do it tonight, Derek. I have a prior commitment. I can look at it first thing Monday morning, or we can see if anyone else on the team is available." This feels aggressive to a nice guy. It feels like you're being a jerk. But look at it from the outside. Is it mean to keep a promise to your wife? Is it mean to expect people to do their own jobs? No, it's just being a man with boundaries. The truth is that people actually prefer a man with a compass. Derek might be annoyed in the moment, but deep down, he will respect Mark more for saying no. He will realize that Mark's time is valuable. He will stop seeing Mark as a doormat and start seeing him as a peer, the first step. If you want to stop being the nice guy, you have to start small. You don't have to walk into your boss's office and quit tomorrow. You just have to start noticing when you are fawning. The next time someone asks you for a favor that you don't want to do, don't answer right away. Stop. Feel that tightening in your chest. That's your fear of conflict trying to take the wheel. Take a breath. Ask yourself, if I say yes to this, am I doing it because I want to be kind or because I'm afraid they won't like me? If the answer is fear, then the kindest thing you can do for yourself and for them is to say no. You are breaking the invisible contract that says you have to be perfect to be loved. You are showing them who you actually are instead of the mask you've been wearing. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that you should stop wondering what a good man should be and just be one. A good man isn't a man who never upsets anyone. He is a man who stands for something. He is a man who has the strength to be firm, the courage to be honest, and the backbone to be truly kind. Mark Henderson sat back in his chair and looked at the pile of files Derek had left. For the first time in his life, he didn't start working right away. He looked at his phone. He thought about the restaurant. He thought about the man he wanted to be. He hadn't changed everything yet, but for a brief second, he felt a small, cold piece of iron start to form in his chest where there used to be only sawdust. He didn't know it yet, but the nice guy was starting to die, and something much stronger was waiting to take his place. Chapter 2. Why do men trade their souls for approval? The humid air of the Maryland Eastern Shore in the 1820s felt like a wet wool blanket. It smelled of salt from the Chesapeake Bay, mixed with the sharp, metallic scent of blood and the sweet, heavy aroma of cornmeal cooking over a fire. For a young boy named Frederick, life was a series of sharp sounds: the crack of a whip, the bark of an order, and the heavy thud of boots on dry earth. Every day was a test of how well he could disappear. He learned to watch the eyes of the people in power. He watched the way a master's jaw tightened before a storm of anger. He learned to hear the difference between a tired sigh and a dangerous one. Frederick wasn't just working the land. He was studying the people who owned it. His survival depended on his ability to please. If he could anticipate a need before it was voiced, he might stay safe. If he could read the shifting moods of the house, he might avoid the lash. This was not kindness. It was a high-stakes game of emotional radar. He was a master at scanning the room for threats, a skill born from the terrifying reality that his body was not his own. This early life created a mental shackle that Frederick later realized was more restrictive than any iron chain. He had been conditioned to believe that his value was tied directly to how well he could manage the emotions of those around him. He lived behind a mask of compliance. To the masters, he was a good servant because he was quiet, observant, and seemingly eager to please. Inside, however, a different fire was starting to burn. He began to see that this pleasing was a strategy of the weak to survive the strong. It was a trade. He gave up his soul, his truth, and his voice in exchange for a temporary, fragile peace. The survival mask. Most men today are not living on a 19th century plantation, but many are still wearing the same mask. We call it being a nice guy, but it is actually a survival mask. This mask is a set of behaviors we learned when we were small and powerless. We learned that if we were quiet, helpful, and never caused trouble, the big people in our lives